Good evening. My name is Terry Alford, and welcome to our story. Again, it's always exciting for you all to come in, especially after our holidays, to be with us and to listen about all the great things that's happening on Michigan Avenue as well as on the east side of Buffalo. Our story is just one more forum to keep you all informed. Again, our story will air at this time every Thursday evening right here at Buffalo Radio Power 96.5 FM. Our story will feature guests, unknown facts, treasure stories, and themes that provide insight into the historic Michigan Street African American Heritage Corridor, as well as all the great things that are happening on the east side of Buffalo, which constitutes two-thirds of our city. So it's exciting. The guests that I have tonight are people that I've known for quite a while now. They're two of my favorite people. I don't say that about all the guests I have all the time here, but these are really generally really great people to have here today. And what we're talking about is very important and is very encouraging in terms of how we talk about the beautification of our city and those activities that really bring light into engagement in community, especially. So our guest tonight is Samantha White and Renata Toney. They both represent the East Side Garden Walk. Welcome, Sam, Samantha, and Renata.
Thanks for having us. It's always such a wonderful time when we get to sit down with you, Terry. You've been an amazing partner, just heading up the Michigan Street African American Heritage Corridor, seeing all of the growth that you've helped to, you know, make happen, and even being willing to partner with Eastside Garden Walk. Some of the work that we've done together includes the streetscape in front of the Freedom Wall. That's how we first met
That's
a
how
few
we
years
first
ago.
met, right?
Yeah, and it was wonderful to have such great partners like Senator, now Congressman Kennedy, and to really build up our community. Um, it was amazing working with you a few years back to found Mrs. Nash's Garden Basket. Um, you've just been such a great partner, and to help us today to promote the East Side Garden Walk, which is coming up not this week but next.
Hmm. So, and I appreciate those kind words. It was like not a hard thing to in terms of a decision to jump right on board. And I think we were introduced to our now curator of exhibits, Audrey Clark, who, as you know, does great work, especially on the gardening scene herself. But before we get into the conversation about the garden walk, what we always like to do here on our stories, to maybe hear a little bit more about who you are and you hear about your story. So let's start with Renata. What's your story, Renata?
Wow, my story goes way back. I hope we have enough time in this
Let's see,
segment.
we got 30 minutes
I'll
here.
try. I'll try
Now
to make
28
it as
minutes.
I'll try to make it as concise as I can. I've been a gardener for years, Terry, but my walk into Eastside Garden Walk really started when I inherited a home on the east side. I
Yes.
lived away for a while, moved back, and I had a lot of work to really, really revive the property. And it starts with Jim Charlier, who has been revolutionary pillar in the growth of Gardens Bluff Moraga and Eastside Garden Walk. And I invited him over to my house to say, look at what I have to deal with. Can you help me? And he provided some visionary guidance in terms of some tips of what I should do. And I started, making that journey. And then at one point he just said, Renata, I think, you're ready for Eastside Garden Walk.
Mm-hmm.
And my first year of participation was during the pandemic. The pandemic came along and we couldn't have it, but we did have a virtual one, and we went online. And it really started there. And in addition, I must also commend the people when I worked at the Birchfield Penny, all my docents who I was starting over, who contributed plantings and told me to come dig up some of their things. So it just grew and grew. And then this amazing person by the name of Samantha White contacted me and, said, Renata, would you be interested in, potentially co-chairing with me? And I was honored, and it has been such a dynamic, learning, wonderful experience to work under her leadership.
Mm-hmm.
I always say I'm her co-pilot. I'm her wingman. She has done so much to increase the visibility, and in many ways also, create independent identity for it, apart from Gardens Buffalo Niagara.
That's very good, Renata.
Hmm.
So Samantha, what's your story? How do you get involved?
So I'm a gardener because that's when I get my hands in the dirt, that's when I can actually breathe.
Yes.
My day job, I work as a lawyer. I was a public defender in Buffalo City Court. Now I represent kids that are being suspended from school for free over at the Western New York Law Center. And it's a high stress job, and when I get my hands in the dirt, that's when I breathe. Um, I lived over on Box Avenue for 18 years. I still have a community garden over there. Um, it's a way of life to try and beautify my community, to build networks between people, to build community and foster as much growth as possible. Um, One of the things that I'm very proud of with the East Side Garden Walk is not only is our goal to um, create more vibrant and beautiful communities by sharing our gardens, but we also expanded the scope of what we do. We make sure that we're giving back to the community by providing grants through Gardens Buffalo Niagara to community gardens. And we do book bag giveaways. This year I'll be doing 500 book bags across the city,
Wow.
both east side and west side this year. So I do hope that you guys come over to the community garden, Good Neighbors Garden on Box Avenue on the 20th and 21st from 11 to 3 p.m. because I've got 300 book bags that weekend to give out.
That's fantastic. I really like what you said about getting in the dirt and being able to breathe. And I think for some of us who's, for whatever reason, got away from gardening, because many of us have done that in our past, and for whatever reason got away from it. I tell the story growing up with siblings. It was five of us along with our parents. My mother was from the South, and she was a member of a sharecropper family. So you hear those stories and the hardships that are associated with that. But the great thing about that is her knowledge, all the things that she learned with growing a garden, growing things, and seeing things come up that you put in, that you sowed yourself. So I always tell the story growing up when we lived on Best Street, we had the equivalent of two city lots, okay, that were unclaimed, and there was no such thing so much as a homesteading law, if you will. But our parents decided to take it over and install a garden. So the cheap labor was me and my brothers and sisters, and we sowed a garden. We hated every minute of it underneath that hot sun when we first installed that garden. Okay, but what amazingly happened over the next 2 weeks to 2 months, 3 months, is we actually saw the fruits of our labor, if you will, all the things that were growing in there, and we took great pride in that. But more importantly, where we got our most satisfaction was our, our parents, especially our mothers and grandmother and aunts, got together in the fall and canned and jarred all those things from our garden. And there was always a lot left over. And what we ended up doing? Start handing that out to our neighbors and our friends and church family members. Uh, so for me, gardening sort of represents so much in terms of community, not just family, but community, bringing people together uh, in such good ways. And Frances Nash, Mrs. Frances Nash, sort of represents us. That's why we named the garden in our farmers market, weekly farmers market, after her, because of her great joy in gardens and how that benefits, especially those communities in need. So, would you agree that's basically your mission, the mission of the Eastside Garden?
Oh yeah, the whole goal is to build community,
Mm-hmm.
to share the gardens, whether it's flowers to beautify or food to build friendship. In my community garden, we have 8 boxes, raised beds that we grow food in,
That's something.
and all summer long I'll be feeding the neighborhood, you know, and it's wonderful to just be able to provide something that is good, wholesome, and healthy.
Yes.
I mean, being able to share the greens and the kale and the tomatoes and all of those just wonderful,
Mhm.
you know?
I have to admit, I am not a vegetable gardener. I am a flower gardener, but we have to also just recognize too the importance of bees and
Yes.
pollination
Yes.
and how important they are to our sustainability with our survival. And it's a wonderful opportunity as I look at my garden while it is in full bloom to see the populations of bees that come
Mhm.
in,
Mhm.
to get what they need to survive and how that, certainly in return helps our environment.
Mhm.
Uh, for me with gardening, with flower gardening, also what I found is what surprised me being in Eastside Garden Walk are, as you say, in terms of building a sense of community, the people who come and visit your garden.
Yes.
Many of them are maybe years ahead in gardening and have a lot more knowledge. And but they share a passion and love of gardening and understand the patience and how many years it takes. But they also offer so much guidance. I mean, I would have problems with, I have a soggy yard after a winter thaw.
Yeah.
And, there were some things that just wouldn't survive. And they would give me tips on new plants and they would come and tell stories. And I'm talking about these are people who come from all over. I mean, to see people all over, and even people, I had people visit my yard who were from Rochester,
Right.
other cities, who just all come together for that same passion that you have. Or I've had people come and go home and bring back people to show them because maybe, they were not necessarily as experienced as I am now, but they're starting. But they're like, oh, I'm going home. I brought my husband back because I wanted to show them. But just the tips that people have given me who are light years ahead of me that I practice every year. But like Samantha says, it's a sense of community. It's a representation of a sense of community manifested in so many ways. But like as you were referring to food, mine is pollinating, beautification, flowers. I've inspired my neighbors to
Right.
get more into gardening, and they'll come over and ask me for tips or ideas. But it's a powerful, powerful experience, and that's my surprise at being involved that I wasn't expecting to learn
Right.
just how powerful it is.
That's so wonderful to say because I actually fell in love with the East Side Garden Walk. I've participated in the Buffalo Garden Walk, and those are great things too. But what's so great about the East Side Garden Walk is you celebrate the East Side. You know, you know, Unfortunately, East Side is stereotyped and the imagery based on media and other things that people hold of neighborhoods on the East Side is nothing beautiful grows there. Nothing beautiful is created there, and that stereotype, that misinformation is immediately removed when these folks actually get out and start walking. So my wife and I fell in love with it just in those neighborhoods around our home, and we didn't know these folks were that serious about gardening. But what we were more surprised by is what you said, Renata, the amount of people that were there that weren't even from Buffalo that were in
Yeah.
these places, and they were walking in and out without fear in these neighborhoods and these blocks, engaging the community, engaging the people there, sharing tips with each other, which I thought was a wonderful thing. Samantha, when was the Eastside Garden Walk established? Anyway?
So we started up in 2018. Um, Again, the mission is to create more vibrant and beautiful communities by sharing gardens.
Yeah.
Now, this is an opportunity for you as a local here in Buffalo to come out during the weekend for free, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m., and see gardens.
Right.
We're going to have all sorts of activities. It's free, it's self-guided. The best way to do it is by bicycle or by car because the east side does take up two-thirds of the city. Even though we do have 109 gardens on the walk this year.
109 gardens.
109 gardens.
Record number.
We do a lot of walking.
With 109 gardeners with their own stories.
You're right.
Right? For me, that's the best part of the garden walk. Being in the garden, being in the space, and talking with the gardener, and learning, their trials, their tribulations with their soil, their plants, the story of their home,
Yeah.
you know,
There you go.
the story of their community, and the growth. It's just such a powerful experience. Thank you for throwing that word
Yeah.
out before. But there's going to be so much that's happening. We're going to have the bookmobile over at Pelion Garden over at 212 Best Street. We're going to have artists that are sponsored by the Buffalo Albright Knox Gallery, and they'll be painting live. We have 3 different locations. Some of you may know Mr. Miles over on Humboldt Parkway with Samantha's Garden.
Yes, I know.
Yes,
Mr. Miles,
over at 365 Newburgh, and that's Renata's house. She's got an amazing
really?
garden.
Okay, don't have to
And
stop
then
there.
over at Grassroot Gardens, 389 Broadway, their headquarters, we're going to have artists painting live, so you can see some amazing artwork. You can go out and create your own artwork. Maybe bring the kids along and let them do it over on Oneburg Drive. We have, again, the book bag giveaway, and not just these little events, but just the experience of being in the gardens and talking and sharing the stories, your story of how you got there, and their story of, what it is they want to share.
That's great. So when is this year's garden walk, by the way?
Saturday and Sunday, July 20th and 21st, again, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. And we have maps that are available at eastsidegardenwalk.com. There's also a great video by Itina Fareed Cook, our Buffalo Poet Laureate.
Right.
She did an amazing series of videos for us, so please check it out. We have our map available for free online, or you can pick a hard copy up at MLK Park or People's Park, and also at every single branch of the Buffalo and Erie County Library.
I strongly encourage people to go to your website. I actually visited again yesterday, but those videos are fantastic. And again, the videos are powerful because it's common people, real life people talking about their gardens, again, sharing their tips, very proudly, boasting about the plants and even sharing, the tribulations of their garden. So I strongly advise folks to, if you haven't done so yet, to visit the website and see those great videos that were produced for the site itself. I don't want to put anybody in a spot, but do you have any personal favorite gardens that you visit every year? I know Mr. Miles' name came up a moment ago.
Well, since I participate in Eastside Garden Walk, I don't get to get around to see any of the gardens. The only experience I had, Terry, was when the first year I went out and I passed out signage, and that gave me to take my own personal tour and talking to a few gardeners and passing out signs. But I think after the 2 days after it's over, you're when you talk to so many people for 6 hours for 2 consecutive days, you're pretty worn out after. But I would love to invest more time in actually going to see some of those 109 gardens. But they're all open during the time I'm open, and you're so consumed. But I would certainly like to visit more, and I just like to also just reiterate, 109 last year. What, Samantha, we had 75. We're up 75. That is almost like a 25-30% peak in gardens. So I think that says a lot about just the influence and how many stories that we have to tell, and that people are really starting to become more invested. I know since the pandemic, I was reading an article in the New York Times that basically said the rise in black gardeners just took a sharp spike after the pandemic.
Yes.
And people went back and revisited something, like you said, culturally, that we know about from being descendants of the South and sharecropping, et cetera, that has been a part of our culture. But they said just the online presence of people starting to sell, black companies starting to sell seeds.
Yes.
A lot of sites where people are talking about urban gardening, et cetera. You're seeing an explosion in it, and it's a beautiful thing.
Right. It's interesting because my old church, St. Martin de Porres, this is their first year getting involved now in the garden. So it took them 2 years to get to this point now, to the point that we have a garden to show off. And next year will be 110 because I already told my wife we're going to get involved with our garden. We're actually, like you, Renata, we're creating our new garden in our backyard area. So my wife developed the Green Thumb and developed the love again. Started with the Eastside Garden Walk, and then last year involved with the church and the fellow parishioners who were really getting involved and really bringing life back in front of our church. So
And gardening's healthy.
And
It's
gardening
very
is a healthy thing.
healthy for the mind, the spirit.
Yes, indeed.
You know, it teaches, certainly you have to have extreme patience,
Hmm.
okay? And there's some disappointment when,
Right.
when your stuff that maybe doesn't come back that year, but you just keep at it.
That's right.
But it
That's right.
teaches us a lot. It's a piece to me that is unparalleled to anything.
Mhm.
I'm never unhappy when I'm in my garden, or if
Right.
I'm not feeling the greatest, it always makes me feel better
Yeah.
when I come in.
It's something about being out in the air and in the sun, maybe sipping your favorite beverage too. Nothing wrong with any of that.
I did want to just speak to the don't miss gardens.
Yeah.
If you stop off at People's Park or MLK Park, and as we get closer to the walk, if you check out eastsidegardenwalk.com, we're actually going to have a list of gardens not to miss.
Oh, that's great.
So,
Is that something new, Samantha?
Oh, we do it each year.
Okay.
We do it each year. We try and put together a list of gardens that are really special. So,
Oh.
if you have the opportunity, stop by MLK Park or People's Park or eastsidegardenwalk.com
Mhm.
and pull the don't miss gardens list.
Right.
One last thing, I did just want to mention that we've actually expanded our map this year to include African American owned businesses and restaurants that you can support during Eastside Garden Walk as well as year round. We also included a list of family friendly points on the east side. So, places that you may or may not know about, like Roosevelt Playground or Central Terminal,
Yes.
the museum, the Science Museum.
Mhm.
People think about, the east side without necessarily thinking there's something that I can do with my family for fun, and we wanted to make sure that we highlight all of the different portions of these community spaces,
Mhm.
so that whether you are in that specific neighborhood where that point of interest is or outside of it, it can be a community resource.
That's very well said. That's very well said, Samantha. And that's important to keep in mind and at the forefront of why we do these things, why we facilitate these type of activities. There's a couple announcements I want to make for our listening audience. Excuse me. Every Tuesday from 4:30 until 6:30 p.m., the Heritage Corridor hosts this weekly Mrs. Francis Nash's Garden Basket Farmers Market at its headquarters located right here in the corridor at 136 Broadway, which is directly across the street from the Colored Musicians Club and Waffle Radio. As part of its July 16th activities at the market, the theme this year will be Garden with the Corridor. So come and get tips about creating a great garden in your small home spaces. Also on Wednesday, July the 24th, beginning at 6 p.m., again at our Heritage Corridor headquarters at 136 Broadway, we will be partnering with the Martin House to present Urban Garden, Bold Beautiful Gardens for Small Spaces, featuring national gardening expert Teresa Spite. Incidentally, Teresa will be our guest next week to talk about this upcoming event. This event will also serve as the opportunity to honor and celebrate the memory of our champion of our community and the founder of Freedom Garden, Gail Wells, who transitioned last month. We are always looking to keep her memory alive. She was really, if you didn't know Gail, she was a strong advocate for the community, but especially for gardening and urban farming and all those type of things. And I remember Gail telling me her favorite plant were trees, right? So that sticks with me. So with the family, we'll be honoring her memory at that time. And hopefully everyone can come out and celebrate her life with us. So again, our guests tonight, as we sort of weighing down to tonight, is Samantha White and Renata Toney with Eastside Garden Walks. We have a great, fabulous conversation about this year's Garden Walk. Again, Samantha, when is this year's Garden Walk?
It's going to be July 20th and 21st. That's a Saturday and Sunday, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. And I almost forgot to mention that we're going to be giving out maps on the 16th at the Farmers Market.
Oh, yeah, so you'll be tabling
there
with us. All right, all right. And Samantha mentioned about the maps. The maps, the website, your Facebook pages, social media pages, all beautiful resources. Again, we would strongly recommend that you try to find these things. And that sort of leads to my next question. There seems to be a lot of planning that goes into rolling out successful garden walks every year. How many volunteers are involved with the Eastside Garden Walk each year?
Dozens, and we greatly appreciate the support of Gardens Buffalo Niagara. I've served as a board member for GBN for probably 4 or 5 years now, and the rest of the board and the people on Garden Walk Buffalo have helped Eastside Garden Walk develop its footing and its identity. And whenever we need help, when we need volunteers, because we're all busy in our gardens,
Yes.
they come out and help us run our headquarters, and then we go out and help them for Garden Walk weekend.
Right.
It's wonderful.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. Both Samantha and I have certainly, full-time positions, and we have some highly instrumental people who work with us and what they call give us gentle nudges to get things done. Namely certainly Catherine Lincoln,
Audrey too.
Audrey,
Audrey Clark.
Melissa,
Yes.
who really help guide us, trying to manage our full-time positions. And, also I just wanted to say, I work at Visit Buffalo Niagara. I'm a VP of Destination Experience, but
Yes.
just how tremendous the economic impact is of people who come to Buffalo and
right.
Fort Garden and who spend money in our
Right.
economies.
That's important.
I mean, that is really
Yeah.
in my day-to-day job. I mean, that it makes an incredible impact. People will come on the east side. We hoping to spend dollars. They'll stay for a while. I don't know. Some may do an overnight stay, which helps that. So it is Gardens of Buffalo Niagara, and we always say Eastside Garden Walk is seeded by Gardens Buffalo Niagara. We are Gardens Buffalo
Yes.
Niagara. I just want to make that clear. We are not independent. We are one family. But Eastside Garden Walk covers a certain geography or footprint, and they have another one. But we are one big family, and
And we're also led by Eastside gardeners.
yes,
Right.
Every one of us have our hands in some Eastside soil.
Right. And that's vitally important to note.
yeah,
As I think that was really important to say too, the economic impact, positive impact these activities make to our city, especially to parts of the city that are so desperately in need of economic positive impacts. And that includes our corridor, Mission Street African American Heritage Corridor. The vision is one day, this corridor in and around the corridor, as well as those historic neighborhoods that connect to it, will be chock full of gardens. Growing up, I'm a lot older than you folks, but growing up, when I was looking to the corner, I think I'm a lot older than you. I remember Michigan Avenue and all the residents that lived on the corridor, right on the corridor, with beautiful lawns and gardens, rose gardens and tulips in the spring. So I remember the colors. I remember smelling the scents, at certain times of the year. So we want to, of course, bring that back. We want to create that economic vitality that was once really high in this corridor. But we also wanted to really recognize and bring back the beauty and the vitality that this community represented for so many. Right? So if one wanted to volunteer, how do they contact you?
You can email me, Sam White, at gardensbuffaloniagara.com.
Right. Any last words before we end tonight? Any last thoughts?
we're looking forward to seeing you. We hope you'll come out and join us and have some conversations, some laughs, see some beautiful things.
Pick up a book bag.
Yep.
Fox Avenue, Good Neighbors Gardens, Saturday and Sunday, the 20th, 21st, 11 to 3 p.m. 300 book bags. Bring the baby.
Amen. So that does it for our evening tonight, our conversation. Again, I thank Samantha White and Renata Toney for this really stimulating conversation about gardening and getting out and engaging. Again, I would strongly recommend our listeners, if you haven't done this activity before, do it. Get on a bike, get on a skateboard, walk around and engage the community and learn something about your neighbors, learn something about the importance and benefits associated with gardening. So that does it for our evening tonight. We hope to see you next week with Terry Spite. Until then, have a great week and a great weekend. Good night.
Good night, thank you.